off at, and I think we're going to start at page 60. Um, we'll be reading Financial Literacy for All by John Hope Bryant. Jim Crow was in effect a gift to the American South. Southerners had been the bad actors in the American Confederacy, but the federal government still needed them and didn't want to offend their sensibilities. Instead of helping the Confederate South move past the antebellum period in the name of unity, our government pandered to them by allowing for the psychological and spiritual degradation of the black community. Under Jim Crow, blacks were given a form of freedom in name, but were denied full access, power, and participation in the American social, political, and economic systems. This was how they disrupted the good work and progress blacks made during the first Reconstruction. It goes without saying that it left a trail of destruction in its path. Moving into the 20th century, after World War II, the federal government authorized the GI Bill, which gave returning war veterans the opportunity of a lifetime, a college education, new job skills, and a mortgage for a new home. This one act alone effectively created the modern industrial age middle class and triggers 60 plus years of economic growth and success. Unfortunately, only a very small fraction of African Americans benefit from the GI Bill. According to an analysis and report done by the History Channel, in 1947, only two of the more than 3,200 VA guaranteed home loans in 13 Mississippi cities went to black borrowers. And these sad statistics were not confined to the South. Noted historian Ira Cass Nelson in New York and the northern New Jersey suburbs, fewer than 100 of the 67,000 mortgages insured by the GI Bill supported home purchases by non-whites. And we haven't even addressed the destabilization power of what today we call redlining. More often than not, people I speak with attribute redlining to private banks, but the reality is that our government put this in place. In the 1930s, the FHA, Federal Housing Administration, literally drew a red line across and over areas that they deemed too risky to guarantee mortgages in. Want to guess where these communities were and who lived in them? You got it. Bingo. No banker in their right mind, be they racist as hell or a saint like Sunday school teacher, is going to write a mortgage loan for a property or a borrower that the federal government has signaled exhibits a lack of safety and soundness. In some cases, the government outright refused to insure said mortgages. As a result, mortgages were primarily made in areas that were deemed safe and stabilized. Guess who lived there? To make matters worse, redlining raised values in these safe and stabilized areas as borrowers. They were taught to have prime access to capital. The pile-on effect was lowering property values everywhere else. Then came the Civil Rights Movement, which lasted from approximately 1955 to 1968. It was led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., with Reverend Andrew Young Reverend C.T. Vivian, and a host of unsung heroes such as Dr. Dorothy Height and Miss Coretta Scott King by his side. This second Reconstruction period was marked by a laser focus on the access to the voting booth, access to public accommodations and facilities, and access to jobs and some careers. In 1968, Dr. King's focus turned sharply to economic justice. Supported by my personal hero and mentor, Reverend Andrew Young, King announced the third element of his civil rights movement, the Poor People's Campaign, which was about bringing together the poor everywhere, white and black and brown together, into one movement about economics and money. This campaign to address economic inequality was a critical turning point in civil rights history. It signaled a shift in focus, recognizing that the fight for civil rights was inherently tied to economic rights. It gave blacks an interest to working class and middle class economic aspiration and opportunity, and the ability to cash a check. By the way, it's worthy of noting that Dr. King's most famous speech, given in Washington, D.C. some years earlier, was at a march entitled The March for Jobs and Freedom. And in that speech, he stated, America has presented its colored people a bad check, a check marked insufficient funds. He also famously said it's all right to tell a man to lift himself by his bootstraps, but it is cruel just to say a bullish man that he ought to lift himself by his bootstraps. These two sentences encapsulated his views on the struggle of the economically disadvantaged in our society. The campaign sought for equality in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the economy too. It was no longer a matter of securing seats in the same restaurants or the front of the bus. It was about securing an equal footing on the economic ladder. It was aimed at addressing economic disparities for all marginalized groups, advocating for living wages, accessible quality education, and affordable housing. It was a grand vision to redefine American society, not by ignoring the color of people's skin, but by acknowledging it and making sure it didn't limit one's economic opportunities. Thank y'all for your time. This was Financial Literacy for All by John Hope Bryant, one of my favorite books, and we're going to stop right there at page 63. Make sure y'all enjoy y'all Monday, top of the week. The best is here.